Before we start, let's just close our eyes for prayer. Lord, a simple prayer that I say every day. I pray for a happy, healthy church, that even in our lifestyle, Lord, we lead people to you. Amen.
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 So I thought I would jump the gun a little bit, since I got quite a few scumper from the side here about what should we buy when we go to the shops. And it's not as easy as let's get in the car, let's go to the shops and start buying something. So I thought I would try and explain a little bit better. It's not changing. Am I going the wrong way? I'm going the wrong way. Manual, I'm going the wrong way. So if we think about building something, I thought I would use that analogy. When you want to build, say for example, a little cupboard, you don't just go to the shops and start buying things, do you? There's a process that you need to go through. You first need to determine, what do I need the cupboard for? So what is it going to look like in general? Then you're going to sit down and do a better design of that cupboard for whatever your needs are. And then you're going to work out costing, because you need to know, have I got enough money for this? And then you need to see, have I got the right tools? Because sometimes we have these grand ideas of things we want to do. And I'm sure, Pastor Tommy, you doing woodwork, and we're so good at that, or still are, I think you still do that. You need to have the right tools, or you need to adapt with what you have to work with. So keep that in mind, because it's exactly the same when we want to buy food and we need to decide how we're going to eat and what we're going to buy for that time. And first of all, your needs. So have a look at the board and see if you can determine what your needs are. So the first picture, what would that show you, all those people there?
Stages of life.
And a simpler way, so what would determine how much calories we need every day, for example?
Growth.
Your age. Your age. So our ages determines how much we eat every day, okay? And then, what else is on there?
Goals.
So what would your goals be? Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to pick up weight? Do you have something that you are training for? Are you, have you got challenges, health challenges? So do you need a specific meal plan for kidney disease or diabetes? Okay, so you need to know what your goals are. And then what next? There's only 5. I've tried to get simple pictures so you can understand. Yes, so even if we are generally healthy, you might have flu at that time. So that will also determine, do I get a little bit more of something, vitamin C or different foods than I would normally get, okay? And what else?
If you're active or not.
Correct. Do you have a sedentary lifestyle? Do you have a very active lifestyle? Because if you don't do much exercise, you don't need as many calories. Arthur, would you like to answer the next one? Are you feeling a little bit left out?
Allergies, yeah, okay,
Oh.
sorry.
Just check, is it right?
I just
Yeah,
thought.
it's okay.
Continue.
It is right.
No, it is right.
Sorry,
They-
I only got distracted here. I was just impressed with the answers coming from.
Well, she's the top student in the class here.
Oh, wait.
Absolutely, your allergies. So if you have a certain allergy to gluten or to wheat or to soy or to peanuts,
Intolerance.
intolerances, food intolerances as well, you are going to avoid those foods. Okay.
There's one I think you should add.
Yeah.
Likes and dislikes.
Yes, you're right.
I like the food at all. Why must I eat broccoli if I don't like it?
You are right, your likes and your dislikes, absolutely. Then you're going to sit down and decide, what am I eating for this week? And this is the biggest problem that I find when I help people. They want to just go to the shops and see what is available. Let's just go to the shops. I'm so eager to get started. But they haven't even thought about their week ahead. They haven't thought, what am I going to do during this week? How much time do I have? So it takes a bit of planning if we really want to look after our bodies properly and we really want to get the right foods in. So some days you might have lots of meetings or you might be very busy and you're not going to have time. You need to prep before then so that you've got proper food to eat during that time. If you think in the moment, oh my goodness, I've got 5 minutes to eat lunch, you're not going to get the right nutrition in. Okay. And your meal plan design, what is suggested for us by Ellen G. White and in general by our conferences, how many meals a day should we be having?
2.
2 to 3, and that third one is a very small meal. So ideally we should have the biggest breakfast, followed by a big lunch, and then a small snack if you are hungry in the evenings. Now lots of people in the beginning say, I can't eat like that. So I want you to try and think back, years back, how people lived. They never used to have big suppers because people would be home earlier, but they would spend time. I don't know if you remember, I remember coming home for lunch, and the parents actually came home for lunch. So people were having a big lunch, bigger breakfast, and we were having a very light supper in the evening. Now it's changed because of how people work. So people are working so hard during the day, never taking any breaks. Then they come home, and that's the only time that families have to come together. So a lot of times when people see me, they say, listen, this is the only time we have family time. And then we have to adapt a little bit. So the guideline then is that at the most, not eat before 6, the most 7 o'clock, but I want to say 6 o'clock, you need to be done eating then. Because otherwise your body won't go into a restful state. Your body doesn't stop working when you sleep, but it slows down. So you need to be aware of that. And once you get into a rhythm, because initially it's going to be difficult for you. You're used to eating late at night, you're used to eating a lot of food, which means you're not hungry in the morning. About 2 weeks it takes. Some people respond faster. If you start eating less in the evening, you actually wake up hungrier. So then you are prepared to have a really nice big meal because you are breaking that fast. That is what breakfast means. You're breaking a fast. So you want to try and get into a rhythm where you eat really light in the evening and your bigger meals are during the day. It also means that you're burning all those calories during the day. We don't fill up our cars and then put it in the garage. We want to use up that fuel. Okay, let me know if it doesn't make any sense. And the other 2 things is that your meal needs to contain, remember we are designing a meal plan now for the week. So you first of all, you know what your needs are. Then you need to look at, okay, I only really need 2 meals a day. Then you need to look at each meal needs to have protein, fiber, and fat. So now we're breaking it down a little bit more. And then easy reference, if you don't want to complicate things, you look at the colors on your plate. You don't need all those colors, but I would say at least 3 colors. So you need to have different colors on your plate. We also eat with our eyes. So we don't want white, and all the sloppy slops. And you look at it and all you do is you eat, but you're not really enjoying it. You're not looking at it and thinking, I feel like I want to eat the food that I have here now. So those would be the 3 things that we look at. And I put some pictures on there to give you an idea of the proteins, which are all your beans and legumes, and then and also nuts. Your fats are also your nuts and your oils in oil form, and your avocados. And then your minerals and vitamins, your fiber, that's your veggies and your fruit. And I find so many people that take the skins off their fruits and vegetables. And then they have challenges with constipation and bodies not functioning properly.
Say that again. They take their
skins off the fruits and veg.
Oh, okay.
So most fruits and veg, if the skins can, it's my lisp. If the skins can go soft when you cook it, please eat it. Because then it's a soluble fiber that's really good for your body. We tend to put the harder fibers in, we add it afterwards, like the brands, cereals and things that they eat in the mornings. That's actually very irritable for your colon. And what a lot of people don't realize is that irritable fiber actually makes you constipated. You need a lot of water for that fiber to expand, to move through your body. So you rather want soluble fiber, which is the gentler fiber. Even butternut. I cook butternut with the skin on, and it cooks beautifully soft. Okay. Let's see the next one. Your costing. So I heard somebody say, not of this church once, that I had also said that, and I meant it in the way of organic and non-organic food, because we cannot all afford organic foods. If you can, wonderful. If you can grow it yourself, wonderful. And I said, if you are doing the best with what you have, I do believe God will still bless you, and you can just pray over that food. It will still give you the nourishment that you need. And somebody said, Yes, but it doesn't mean which is correct. You can go buy sweets and treats and cakes and stuff, pray over it, and expect God to bless it in your body. So I was referring to organic and non-organic. People nowadays very much focus on organic because there are so many genetically modified crops. So that is your guideline. Don't go for genetically modified crops. And you can still get non-organic, but it's just not genetically modified. Genetically modified means it also you can't get seeds from that. So if something, they normally call it heirloom products, means it comes from the original seeds. So just make sure that whatever you are eating is not genetically modified. Okay, in South Africa, we are still relatively safe as far as that is concerned. And then look at quantity discounts. So I, with my friends, would normally say, we're going to whatever place, shop where there's lots of fruits and vegetables, but they give discounts for if you buy 3 or if you buy 4. Now, if you live on your own, it doesn't make sense for you to buy that much, but it can work out to quite a saving. So I would say to my friends, this is what we're buying. Anybody want to share? And then we share it amongst ourselves. So you can also work like that. If you're still with your family, try and work in that way where it brings the costing down for you. Because a lot of people will say to me that a plant-based diet is a lot more expensive. I don't agree. I've been a vegan for 30 years, and trust me, it's definitely not more expensive. Because when your body gets the nutrients in that it needs, you don't have those cravings where you constantly need to eat some of the not as good foods. And your beans, your legumes, gosh, we buy it in 25 kg bags. I mean, it lasts us for years. So that can go a long way. To give you an idea, 1 cup of bean and legumes is normally 3 times the size of of the dried version. So you can cook quite a bit in advance and freeze it and use it as you need to. So now that we know we can afford some food, the equipment is also not necessary, but it helps. So when I became a vegan, I remember the first time I was invited, I was in Claremont Church to a Sabbath lunch. I didn't know what haystacks were. Ek het rooi vleis geëet vir dood. I came from a ostrich farming, South African meat eating background. So I absolutely loved red meat. And I was quite vocal and opinionated about soy, for example. And I would say to people, do not feed me soy. I was quite proud of the fact that I ate so much meat. Famous last words I had a Damascus experience about. So I learned that a lot of this equipment makes it easier for you to really eat amazing food. But nowadays we're so lucky that you can get one piece of equipment that does all of it in one. So I'm going to mention some of them here, and it's just going to determine what you want to eat. So if you want to, for example, feel like pureed soups, you're not going to be able to eat it if you don't have a blender. So it just makes things a little bit easier and your expectations realistic, if that makes any sense. So one of the main things for me is a food processor, because you can make all your own sauces, all your own purees, all your own spreads. So that's great. It makes it fine. And then a blender those are my go-to things. Blender just also purees everything beautifully. And as I say, I'm not sponsored by anybody, but if you look at the NutriBullet at the bottom, there's different blades. So the different blades actually does different things. So one blade, for example, grinds things, which means it can grind your nuts and your seeds, and it becomes a powder form. You can also make your own gluten-free breadcrumbs. So if you buy gluten-free bread, becomes stale, you make your own gluten-free breadcrumbs that you can crumb food in. It also has a blending purpose that does the reverse. It blends so high that when you put soup ingredients together and you blend it, it heats it up to a point where you can actually eat it as a soup straight away. So it sometimes is a really good investment to get something good that you can make all these things with, that you don't need to buy. Because in the long run, it works out cheaper for you to just quickly make these things. Okay, so the equipment, it's not essential. Sorry, I was talking about this, the lunch I went to. And I wanted to impress whoever was there, because I wasn't a vegan yet, but experimenting. And I got a recipe for a cashew loaf. Didn't have any equipment like this at all. So I chopped those cashews up to try and make a cashew loaf. and I don't know, spend how much money on these cashews, and went to the lunch, and this loaf, of course, was not holding it together because it wasn't ground nuts. And I'll still remember how appreciative these ladies were and said, "Oh my goodness, you should have just had a grinder, or you shouldn't have done this." And I had no idea what they were talking about. But we literally ate the cashew pieces like that out of this loaf. So yeah, that was good memories. Then you have to have a recipe toolbox. So if you like my best friend, she says, "I hate cooking," which is a problem if you hate cooking. But you also can't go to the shops, even with the best of intentions. You get there and they don't have what you're looking for. Or what you're looking for is all of a sudden at a very high price. Because we also need to look at our budgets. Then you need to be able to adapt. So I call it a recipe toolbox, where you, in your mind, have had quite a few recipes that you've made already. So you're a little bit more versatile. So if something is not there, you can quickly go, you know what, for example, there's no broccoli that I wanted to use in this dish, but there is spinach. Can I just use that instead of the broccoli, or can I change what I'm doing? So I don't know if that makes any sense. It helps to play around a little bit with recipes, have some in your mind, so that if you do go to the shops, it's actually much easier for you just to get what you're really looking for. Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Good
I thought I would show you just some of the results. So in the end, this is what your meals should look like. They should be colorful. They should have the fiber, the protein, the fats in here. These are all plant-based, all vegan. I'm very blessed because I, for example, love what we call the poke bowls, which is those colorful ones that you see, colorful plates. I like to put little things here because then I also see exactly what I'm eating, and then you mix and match it in between. In the end, this is what your meals should look like. It should entice you. When you look at it, you should want to eat it. You should feel hungry. You should feel nourished. It shouldn't be meals that you look at and it's like slop that you've just put together. Are there any questions?
Sorry. Brother Arthur, you wanted to ask something? Do you want to ask something?
I was just going to ask, do you enjoy cooking?
Do I enjoy cooking? I love cooking. Yes, I love cooking.
Okay, I wanted to ask, if you, like food lovers, for example, they have these poke bowls or fruit bowls already cut up fruit, but then somebody say it loses its value if you buy fruits and stuff that's cut up. Is that true, or is it fine if you buy the already?
So the minute you start processing something, it starts losing, especially vitamins. Having said that, it still has fiber, and I would rather let you eat that than not eat that, if that is easier when you already buy it cut up. So the value in that is still more than you not eating it. Does that make sense? The one vitamin that gets lost really easily is vitamin C. It gets lost through heat and oxidation. So that's the only thing. So the minute you start processing, but normally those items is still in that day that it's been cut up. With fruits and things, you don't want it to last 2-3 days. You don't want to buy it 2-3 days after it's been cut up. But yeah.
Fish. What I like, I don't eat much fish, but I'll always eat a hake. Just a plain hake, and I'll just put in the fire or whatever. What can we eat in place of that? It's just our amigas, isn't it?
Yeah, no. No, I don't know if you can recall, but I said to the amigas, fish get that from plant sources as well. So if you look at the cons in fish and the pros, there's too many cons. So fish is high in metals. So you want to avoid that at all costs. And your flax seeds and your chia seeds. So if you look at that little picture right here, that's chia pudding. So that's very high in omegas. But also your flax seeds, 1 or 2 tablespoons a day, that is really, really high in your
And it's
omegas as
best to
well.
grind it.
That's the linseed, eh?
Linseed. So there's 2 ways. You can either soak it overnight.
Okay.
So if you don't have a grinder, that's fine. You can either soak it overnight, then it's going to soften and your body will be able to digest and absorb it. If you grind it, you need to have it straight away. So a lot of people buy it ground in the packets. You shouldn't have it because, again, the oxidation starts taking place. So I would normally soak it overnight, or I would put it in a smoothie because then it grinds and and liquefies in the same way. But that's a better, if you're eating fish for omegas,
Not much.
I would go to the chia and the linseed. It's a much better option for your body.
So how much linseed can we actually eat at a time?
2
You know,
tablespoons.
They used to give it to us when we went on training,
Yeah.
and it's
You can-
very good.
You can do 1 to 2 tablespoons a day, depending if you also have some of the chia. It's not going to be bad for you, and you'll taste that it has quite a bit of a fishy taste, linseed, if you
Yeah, I like linseed.
taste it on its own.
Yeah.
But 2 tablespoons a day is good, 1 to 2 tablespoons.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Just like that, on your food, mixed in something?
Ground or soaked. So you can, wherever you feel, for me, because it has such a strong fishy taste, it works well with fruits, and I call it my fatty breakfast, where I have lots of fats, and that works well for me there. Also over salads, so you can also have it over salads. Okay.
Do you make a distinction between lionfish and shellfish?
Absolutely. I make a distinction between fish and no fish. But shellfish is completely different from lionfish. So shellfish are like scavengers. So they
Scavengers,
clean us. Yes. And with all the scavengers across the animal kingdom, their bodies have been designed in a way that they can absorb toxins. So for us to then eat a toxic product, so which they are, and you'll also find it's very, very high in cholesterol. And that's also why people have a lot of, because of the toxins, have a lot of allergies to shellfish. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
You know, I'm just thinking, while you're talking, you can have all those ingredients. And normally my plates of food looks like that. It's a deer macaw stuff. But if you haven't got the knowledge of how to prepare
Yes.
vegan food,
Yes.
it doesn't taste the same as what you that have the knowledge
Yeah.
that prepare it.
She's going to give lessons.
That's very,
Yeah.
that's very true, and that's one of the sad things, that as life has changed, parents are not teaching children that anymore. So what's happened now is, I remember when I became a vegan, they were still making gluten steaks, and you needed to really manipulate it, and then they tasted with like rubber and with a mushroom saucy. It's changed a lot. We now have so many options, but we're going through these transitions where the options, some of them are now unhealthy, even though I've mentioned to you before, they're ultra processed. But if you find the right options, so there are health shops that sell, say for example, that I used to prepare my own dishes and sell that through the business I had. So there are those options where people actually do that, where the food is healthy, from making sausages and little burgers themselves. But I absolutely hear you that it is not that easy when you don't have the knowledge, especially if you've come from a background where all these things are foreign to you. But that is why, Lynn, we actually used to have that before. When I was in Tableview Church, we had vegetarian cooking classes, vegan cooking classes to help people and just keep it simple. So I was going to do a separate talk on that, but just quickly to mention to you how I made it easy for myself. So Arthur, even though I always loved cooking, I really enjoyed it even more when I became a vegan, because it was such a challenge. Because your food didn't revolve around a piece of meat and then trying to just get the right veggies to work with it.
And you can employ your knowledge.
Yes.
You can employ your knowledge and use your imagination and
Yes, correct.
creativity and
Correct.
so forth.
But all of us can cook. So even if we had meat. So what I did is I literally took the dishes that I used to love, and that would be like bobotie or whatever foods or lasagna, whatever foods we used to eat. And I would veganize it. So I would look at the recipe and think, how am I going to change this? Because meat has a no taste. You have to add spices and herbs. So if I replace that, for example, with lentils or soy mince, and I just spice and herb it the same way, it tastes exactly the same way. So that's how I started. I literally just took dishes that I already knew, and I just changed the meats in there to other things.
Yeah.
And that's how you start, and it actually works really, really well. That's the simplest way, because all of us,
And your palate gets used to after
it does
a
get
while.
used. It does get used to it. Yes, yes. So, but maybe we'll do a talk on that as well, where I'll tell you what good swaps are for certain meats and things. Yeah.
And tell us about what herbs to use and what condiments to use, or that's
Yes.
healthy to
Yes.
to give the food a little bit more
100%.
taste,
Yes.
and it's not so bland.
Yes. So in general, and yes, I will do a talk on that. The ideal is when you start learning to cook with herbs and only certain spices. You don't want to overspice your food. It should actually bring out the natural flavor of the foods. So you shouldn't be dousing your food with sauces and stuff because you can't handle the taste. It should bring out the natural flavors that you can actually enjoy the food for what it is.
Yeah.
Fries, I think you mentioned some time ago, it's not really good stuff, is it?
Process.
It's processed.
I call it a transition food. So for me, when I help people to go from a meat diet to a plant-based diet, I would say to them, use these foods to help you transition. Because first of all, when you just go from a meat diet to a bean diet, for example, your body doesn't have the proper enzymes. So I prefer to do things slower so people can get used to a new way of eating. And the processed foods, we shouldn't have literally kind of in backup cases and emergency cases, but because it is so processed, you have to look carefully at the ingredients list, at what have they gone through, for you to make that decision that it is actually a healthy option. So every now and again, you can do, but you shouldn't be a vegan eating those foods every single day as part of your lifestyle. Okay, the more natural, the least processed, the better it is. And that's what you should look at. You should kind of look at a food and think, how much how much has this gone through? Is it still looking natural? Can I still identify what it is? And then of course there's the other side of the coin where people say that, why are we eating products that looks like meat, resembles meat, sausages and steaks and schnitzels and what have you, if we not really wanting to eat things that resembles meat. Somebody once said, a pastor in another church, die vleispotte van Egypte, we seem to want to go back because everything must look like the meat, so who are we fooling? Yes. If there's no other questions, I think we should go into the study time. Okay, yeah.
How old were you when you switched from meat to vegan?
I had probably, if I have to think realistically, it all happened within a year. And I didn't plan to become a vegan. So that was definitely not on my radar. But I was introduced to the church and I've always been interested in health. But I've kind of followed the world's rules of health. And then I thought it was very interesting what the church was teaching me. And I had health problems. I had what you call now irritable bowel syndrome. So I had a spastic colon that caused me tremendous pain. And doctors couldn't help me. Everything they gave, and now that I know, everything they prescribed was actually making it worse and not better. And then the church helped me to kind of try this new way of life and see, does it work for me, does it not? And they were guiding me quite a lot, the ladies in Claremont Church specifically. And I thought, what have I got to lose? Let's see if it helps me. And being interested in health, and then of course I watched Walter's, he had 5 DVDs on health that he brought out. I watched that, and that's all I needed to watch really. I still ate meat in that year, but every time I had meat I felt really sick. So your body also starts getting an aversion towards something that makes you feel sick. So I literally just lost my taste and I mean I grew to enjoy chickpeas, and I felt so much better. I was always a sports person, and to be able to do my sports without tremendous debilitating pains and aches in your stomach, and that was a big plus. So within a year, I went vegan, and I really enjoyed it.
How old were you?
How old was I?
Yeah.
Are you trying to gauge my age now? Because I said I've been a vegan for 30 years. In my early 20s. In my early 20s. So around 95, 96. Yeah, 95, yes.
So one more question.
Yes.
Which is the best protein in the vegan? Because I also love vegetarian. But what is the highest? Is it lentils? Is it the seeds?
There is no answer to that. If you really want your highest is your soy, and you need to then have it in a natural way in the beans. But that's what I like about how God gave us all these different foods. You need to combine to get the best protein, because it's the same as superfoods. If I say to people, this is moringa as a superfood, then people are just going to have moringa for the rest of their lives. There's different, and you need to combine, because it's not just about the high protein content. It's about the other things that comes into play. If you remember last time I had the talk, different amino acids in the one, different amino acids in the other. So even if the protein profile is high, it might be lacking certain amino acids. So that's why you want to combine it with different things to get the best. Okay.
Is there any book that we can get on the different values of all the foods we eat in there?
No, but I can suggest Barbara O'Neill's book. She's coming to Cape Town at the end of in November. Walter Fight also has a really good diet and health, his book. And I'm saying the profiles can change. So you have to be careful to not look at just those profiles. I have a very different approach, even though I work with athletes that needs little figures and numbers and exact calories. In general, for lifestyle, if you are following the basic guidelines, your weight will drop and you will stabilize to the weight that you should be. And if you're eating the meals in the way that I suggested before. So we shouldn't kind of look at just a few items or the highest protein or I remember last time I spoke also I said that's the amount of protein you need, size of your palm. So especially as you get older, you don't need that much protein anymore. Again, depends on your activity level, depends on your age, depends on what your body's going through. So your meal plan might look different 1 week to the other, or a few days might look a little bit different. I remember Sister Francis once saying to me, what do you mean, what you do on that day? And I never realized that people didn't understand. If I run 20 kilometers on that day, I'm not going to eat the same as I eat on Sabbath. So on Sabbath, I eat a lot less because I don't do any activity. And I sometimes want to refresh and just rest my body. But on other days where you do a lot of activity, you can eat a little bit more. Does that make sense? Okay. Ek gaan nou jou, ek gaan nou ophou. Okay.
He's laughing because it's the opposite. Because we relax on the Sabbath,
Exactly.
we eat more.
That's what I want to say.
Is that why you're laughing? Because we eat more when we eat.
Adventists usually does that. You shouldn't do that.
Relax.
You should still, food should still be very special on Sabbath, I find. But you shouldn't overeat. But you can have something special on Sabbath. I mean, enjoy that. I know some elders, or a elder in Mowbray, he fasts every Sabbath, so that he can, just for himself, he can focus on God and he fasts. That's his fasting time. But okay, we have to stop because we're 10 minutes over the time already. Thank you so much for all the questions. I really appreciate it, and I hope this helps you on a little bit. If there's anything specific you want me to address, otherwise I'm going to go on with what I've planned. But like now, I will address something sooner rather than later if it's going to help you guys. So just send me a WhatsApp and let me know. Okay. All right.
I was just thinking wistfully, when last I ran 10 kilometers. Oh dear.
Let's close our eyes for prayer, friends. Father in heaven, dear Lord, we thank Thee for the knowledge and the insight that we could get from this talk. Father, thank You that You created our bodies in such a way that everything can be provided if we just look and if we follow Your guidance. Father, help us to stay faithful, help us to be healthy, help us to keep our minds fresh so that we can share Your word with others and impart all the knowledge, dear Lord, that we can get from the Bible, and so that we can share it. Bless us now as we go into the lesson study. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Water here before.